everybody. I don't know what this voice is, but welcome to Clutch or Kick, episode 3.
3? I think.
3, I think.
It's
yep.
4?
I think we're on 3, episode 3.
Oh, yeah, sorry. We got the name to episode
We've
3.
rotated out Matt this week and brought in Wyatt Rivers, the CEO of Tier 7 and former esports owner of Ascent. Actually, no, you still own Ascent. I don't know why I said former. And former pro player. That's why I said former, because I had that in my mind.
Right.
Former Valorant pro player?
Just pro. We won't say what games.
Well, I think our team, we had a pretty bountiful professional career. That one first tournament we played, where we made, I think, top 32. Is that considered professional?
Top 16.
Or top 16
in the first tournament.
Yeah. We had a 1 week stint.
And since then, we've had a habit of entering tournaments and going out to the team that goes to the finals in the first round.
Right. To be fair, I mean, to be clear to all of the viewers, we're not entering like the T1 tournament and going out to the winners. we are entering some $50 tournaments and going out to the winners.
Let's put some respect on the name Tier 7. We're entering $500 tournaments, not 50.
Okay.
Very true.
It was funny for like 2 weeks in the beta when you actually like were pretty good at the time. You actually like got some wins and like, yeah, we're on the momentum. Like we're getting some wins here, and then it just dipped, and we're like, screw this.
Dude, I'm still good at the game. I don't know what you guys are talking about. Anyway, let's begin the episode talking about the acts and the episode structure. So this is essentially the format that Riot are doing to describe their timeline of events and the sort of update structure. I think they're matching it up with their battle pass system, acts and episodes. I think they're 3 episodes per act, and it lasts 2 months per episode.
No, wait. It's 3 acts per episode.
3 acts per episode?
Yeah, so like an episode is like...
you're wrong.
No.
Are you sure?
No, an episode is a big thing. No, wait. No, it's not.
An act is a big thing.
An act is a big thing.
Bren was correct.
What, am I correct?
Yes, Bren is correct.
Okay.
Bren is correct.
Anyway, regardless of if I'm right or not, where do you even begin with this? Because they say that they're going to be dropping new agents at the start of every act. New lore for the people that care about it. I don't think there's many people that care about the lore in the Valorant scene, at least.
I think there will be. I think that people will really start to care about the lore a lot more. Yeah, there's so many like casual fans that will get hooked in by that kind of stuff. They get hooked in by skins, like they'll tie in the skins to the lore and stuff like that. Like a lot of people love the Overwatch lore, and I don't think that the communities are that much different.
Overwatch is very different to Valorant, though.
Overwatch is very different.
Well, they like to pretend that they're like edgelords and stuff, but they're still gonna watch stuff like that. I think people will still care. Like they're not gonna. I don't think they're going to be buying plushies that much, but they're going to... See, it is.
Oh, yeah, no, Josh was right.
See, I was right.
Yeah. Episode 1, Act 1, 2, 3.
Who wrote the rundown for the show?
Josh did.
And I was correct.
Wait a second.
Because it says...
Anyway.
Whatever.
The point is, they're going to be releasing 3 agents per episode, right? Because it's like a new agent every act, right?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous, though.
So
I read that, and I could hear Sideshow scream over in Hollywood. Just like, because that's what you've been saying for months now.
Am I correct in thinking, though, that that's an agent every 2 months?
Yes.
Yeah.
An agent is planned to be released at the moment every 2 months. Now, they did say in the video that they would listen to community feedback and see whether that was like too much or too little. Like, how on earth that could be too little? I have no fucking clue. Who's up there going, I need an agent every month. Give me a new agent. I need it. Like, just directly into my veins.
Well, I'll be honest as well. There's more that goes into... there's more outside influences that go into the decision to add agents into the game than just, is it healthy for the game? Is it interesting for the game? Like the marketing team, for example. I didn't realize how big of a part the marketing played into the introduction of new agents, but it's a pretty huge part, actually. And I think they have some say over, we need a new agent for this country, for this region that we're trying to break into.
Oh, that's a good point.
And it affects timings like that. So it's a little, I'm not making a claim that they're going to start bringing out, I don't know, like the more agents from China because they're starting to release in China. But I think it is going to affect at least the concept that they have in their mind of their release schedule. And I don't think they're going to be... Yeah, I mean, maybe they might loosen it up, but I still think it's kind of crazy, the concept of them adding agents so frequently because of how much they can shake up the game, like Valorant.
Yeah, I'm worried about adding agents every 2 months because I think genuinely the only thing that can ruin this game, like actually make it really a bad game, is having agents that are unfun to play against. And you know, like a lot of people from Overwatch, they eventually got turned off by whatever the meta happened to be and it not feeling fun. And you can play bad maps and not really enjoy the maps, but once you get enough maps, you only play like the bad map once every 5 times or something. But if you have a bad agent, if they're overpowered, they're in every single one of your games, and it just makes every single game feel shit. Thankfully, they've so far managed to avoid that. Even though people were complaining about Raze and Reyna, they really haven't been that bad. But
I do think it's a
potential.
I think it's a bit worrying every 2 months, though, because if you consider the chance that they do add an agent that's overpowered, how many weeks it's going to take to actually properly balance that agent, you might be coming up on a time where there's already going to be another one added to the game. And then,
I mean, it's taken like 5 months for that. No, not 5 months. How long has the game even been since alpha?
I don't know, a couple months? 2 months? 2 months, maybe?
Yeah.
2-3 months.
It's taken a couple of months to balance Sage, though, right?
Yeah,
like we're only just starting to see Sage starting to trickle out of every single lineup. So they could totally do the same thing with another new agent.
Because you have to make a change, and then you have to allot some period of time where people need to actually play test it so they can get accurate information as to if the change was good or not. There's just not going to. I don't think that's a reasonable timeline. I think it's just too many agents in a year. I think maybe every 3 months would be a bit better, personally.
What a crazy amount of agents you're going to have in a couple of years, though. I mean, that's bonkers, right? Like
they have to change that at some point.
6 per year.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And it feels so counterintuitive for Valorant as we knew the game, because everyone propped it up to be like the hardcore tactical shooter. You know, everything is so hardcore in a sense that it like there's no randomness or anything to it. And then it just feels like last minute they're like, oh, by the way, agents every 2 months. And it feels like if I had to speculate, like conspiracy theory, it just has to come from someone above who's like, how are we going to make money on this game? Because like the game is free, and it's like most people won't actually buy skins. Like I buy skins because I don't know what I'm doing. But most of the people won't buy skins. And at that point, it's like, how are you making money? Well, people want to play new heroes and agents. And that feels like the primary reason behind agents so often. Because I don't, like, if I had to speculate, I don't even think the developers want to push out the agent every 2 months. Like, I don't think they want to do that, but it feels like outside of their hands.
Have you seen the kind of, I don't know whether people have really thought about the way that agents are monetized. We're taking a look at the battle pass here as well, because there's going to be a new battle pass every act, which I think is a good way of monetizing your game. But for the agents, the way that you unlock agents within the game is that you need a certain amount of whatever the in-game currency is. I can't even remember the name of it, like Radiant or something. Is it?
No,
yeah.
Radiant is the cosmetic stuff, right?
Oh, right. Yeah, there's 2 different types of currency. One is for leveling up your items, and it's just a total scam. And the other one is for actually unlocking agents.
Call it gold.
Okay, gold.
It's the Valorant point system, VP.
Okay,
You're
VP,
talking about that, where you pay for it?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's one that's just XP, where playing games, and that's how you unlock it, or...
But you don't... you have to have the agent already released to build up the contract to unlock the agent. So it's not like you build up those points by grinding the game, and then when a new agent comes out, you can just straight away unlock it, right? You have to wait for like maybe 2 weeks of building up that experience.
It takes a long time to unlock a new agent. Normally.
Yeah. So no one is going to be grinding for a new agent. If a new agent is released and you think it's cool, everybody is going to be buying that right now. And people are going to be pissed because if there's 6 new agents a year, that's 6 times that you have to shell out like $10 to have the same fun as other people playing the game.
Yeah.
I think that the way that currently agents are unlocked isn't going to be sustainable long term.
I completely agree. I still don't have some of these stock agents unlocked. I wanted to play Reyna, so I bought her. I still don't have, I can't play like Cypher and Viper, who came out with the game. And I mean, I have to be playing at least like 20 hours a week of the game right now, and I still don't have them unlocked.
Are you actively, because you have to click on their contract and activate it?
Yes.
Yeah, and it's still not unlocked.
Yeah, I still have 2 of them. I mean,
it's actually ridiculous.
That's crazy. So and that's another problem with the time frame. Then there's going to be people who don't even have the agent.
People have
their formed opinion.
People have been complaining about the XP system, about how it's deceptive in some ways, because when you they base it off into tiers, like with the battle pass, with the agent unlocking, like there's a little tier that you unlock as the next level. Well, if you, for example, complete a weekly quest and get like 15,000 XP, they may have fixed this, I'm not sure. Someone needs to fact check me who's on a PC.
Okay.
Ideally now, before I start saying something that's incorrect.
How can I fact check you? You haven't said what it is.
Okay,
How can I
let me say what it is. Apparently what's happening is there's a tier, and say you need 2,000 XP to unlock the next tier, and you complete a quest worth 15,000 XP, 13,000 of that XP just goes. Once you hit
the tier, the extra disappears.
The XP just disappears, apparently. So
how would I even fact check that? What do you want me to do? Go and play a game of Spike Watch and see if I get
XP?
I
mean, I assumed it would be a bug, but then I think they've been quite sneaky with the way that they've implemented the battle pass, and like how much you have to play to unlock everything without paying even more on top. Like,
I mean, let's be real. It is a business at the end of the day. Like this game is supposed to make money for the developers. It is not a charity project. And I think that a battle pass is a really cool way of being able to monetize your game, because you're giving people extra, like the cosmetic stuff, and making shit look cool.
Yeah, it's all optional, you know?
Yeah, but when it gets to the agents, I feel like there should be, if you're somebody that plays a shit ton of the game, you should be rewarded for that. Like, you should be able to build up XP in the bank to spend on an agent rather than
like a point system, like what Riot does with their with League of Legends, as far as I'm aware.
What do you think if they
as far as I'm aware, yeah.
What do you think if they made it so at the end of the battle pass you get an agent?
Maybe.
I mean, it takes forever to complete a battle pass.
You still have to buy the battle pass, though, right? It's
true.
Yes, yeah.
But that's another thing that people are complaining about as well. I mean, there's a lot of entitled people online saying like, "Oh, the skin prices are extortionate. I'm never going to pay for that." Well, it's optional fucking content. You know, you don't have to buy it. It's a skin. You know, at the end of the day. Yeah. But the battle pass is like $10, and the concept of a battle pass, I think, is that you can spend $10 on it, and you just play the game and you get cool skins, and that's like the idea behind it. But I think people have realized that if they just play normally, it's going to be quite difficult to get the full completion of it, all 50 tiers and unlock every single skin.
Yeah, it requires a shit ton of XP, right?
Yeah, you may it's highly likely that before the end of it, if you're just a casual player, you're not really playing that much. And when I say casual, I mean like maybe an hour or two every night. You're probably going to have to pay some money at the end to unlock every single thing in that battle pass. So, which is kind of a weird concept for a battle pass, you know? And it's obviously it's still, they could still change some stuff, but I think with, when it comes to skin pricing and agent pricing and the battle pass pricing and how much they give for that, that's more the marketing and sales side than it is going to be the game devs who are like,
it's also going to be just responding to community feedback, because like all things to do with economics, if your consumer base decides to decides that your pricing is too high and they decide not to engage with your product, you're going to reduce the pricing. If people decide that the agents are way too difficult to get and they dislike it and they cause a shitstorm about it online, Riot will decrease it. So I think they're going to respond to feedback.
Have you been following the VALORANT subreddit at all?
Occasionally.
They are going like the amount of entitlement on the internet just hurts my brain, because they are going crazy, and I don't know if they still are, but they've been going mental over the skin prices, like just threatening to uninstall the game over optional skin prices. It's absurd, and I think Reddit thinks it's larger than it is in terms of the player base, but I mean the only people who have the true numbers is Riot, right? In terms of who's buying and the actual skins.
I wouldn't be surprised if their skin sales are not that good overall.
Well, I think that
or
might be
below projected numbers. That would not shock me in any way.
The skins aren't very good though.
Well, that's the thing. I think more so than the skins being too expensive, they're just not cool. So they are the cool to expense ratio is just out of whack because they don't actually look good. I think that's a bigger issue than them being expensive.
You don't think they look good? I feel like the what do you call it? Like the Vandal skin that goes pew 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 and the battle axe and
What,
stuff.
the fucking laser Vandal?
Yeah, don't you like that?
It's
I feel like
so
that's pretty
tacky,
cool.
dude.
Maybe for $10. I mean, this is getting into the semantic area, but I do think that they're too expensive for what they are.
The Avalanche skins you're seeing here, they look like Christmas wrapping paper.
Egregious. $10.
Yeah.
$10.
Yeah, some of these.
How much are they?
$10.
I mean,
Oh, right.
If not
yeah,
more.
I looked up the Prism skin now. The knife is like $25, I think.
The
I
knives
bought
are more
the Prism
expensive though,
set.
right?
Yeah. But a regular gun is like, $10 or something.
I spent $300 in the beta on the points.
Oh, you got 20% on top. I did that too.
Yeah,
I
because
was
you get the 20% on top.
bonus.
Exactly,
I'm
Johnny,
investing.
exactly. And I thought they were going to come out with some cool skins, and they have literally only released poo-poo since then, in my opinion.
I'm not a skin person, so I don't get it. Why are these skins poo, but other skins in other games people really like?
I think a lot of...
Have you heard of art? Some art pieces are cool, and others look like trash.
But all right, Kurt, can you scroll back up to like the let me find one that like this Reaver stuff. You think that looks really terrible? This looks like the same stuff in all of the like.
Dude, look how noisy that is.
That first set of the all gold and purple was so gaudy.
So tacky.
$37 gold hatchet. Please.
Hey, the gold
when
hatchet
I see
is cool,
people with a golden hatchet,
that's some
I get mad.
Minecraft shit. I like that.
You like the golden hatchet for
$37?
It reminds me of Fortnite. They look like Fortnite.
No, wrong. Here's the thing. If you were playing Fortnite, no, for real, this is a point I keep making. If you were playing Fortnite, imagine you're coming home from school and you're about to use your mom's credit card to buy a skin in your favorite video game. $40 gold hatchet or $20 and you get to be Captain America in Fortnite. I mean, that's ridiculous. I mean, it's just, I really think it is too much.
I'm also very
the skins
intrigued.
you're showing here, Kurt, as well. These are the ones you can't even buy. You have to unlock them with playtime. So, but this is the gaudy one. Like, oh my god, this set.
I'm mad now.
Like, look at like this. I don't know. It's like they're like, oh, we'll put some gold on it and make it look cool.
What? I think these are pretty good.
Yeah, but
I bought these happily.
Really?
$20 for that.
Another thing people are taking issue with is this Radianite system where you have to essentially unlock the battle pass to unlock Radiant, as far as I'm aware, which is then used to just unlock the full potential of the skins you've already bought. Like, it's so mental, to be honest. Look at
sound
this.
like Reddit right now,
What is that?
Dude.
Okay, but
I think it's cool because it's an axe. Everything is a knife, and now you can buy an axe.
yeah, I actually quite like it. When I see people running around with the axe, I
like
feel like it's like it looks pretty sick. But I mean, it doesn't look good there, but it looks good in the game, I think, or it looks like funny, you know?
I conceptually, I like the idea. It's an axe, not a knife. I like that idea. It doesn't always have to be a knife. It can be any type of melee. I like that. But
This is
that
unproductive.
axe? Come on.
It's just whining. What skins do you want to see? What type of skins do you want to see? What games does it write, and how do you want it to
I
implement
want to
it
see
in
them
Valorant?
open it up to like what CS does.
A community thing.
Yeah,
would be cool.
community
But also,
skins.
for real, the blue one, that's the Prism.
The
right?
Prism,
That's
yeah.
better than any other skin
Yeah.
in the game, and it's just blue.
Where's the prism? Where's the prism?
No, that's
Yeah,
so
because it's
tacky.
so
No sense of
because it's so
aesthetic. I'm
simple.
getting pissed.
Here, these
Are
ones.
these prism?
Yeah. It's
Dude,
just like
no,
a
this is like you're
metallic.
playing
It's a metallic
Need for Speed
blue.
Underground 2, bro, and you're like 12 years old.
You don't like
No.
that?
But the gold is cool. Oh my god, you're kidding, dude. See ya. Oh
Dude,
my
this
God.
is just like some neon. Like you're 12 years old, and you're like, okay, well, what color do you want your gun
Are
to be?
you
It's
kidding
like, well,
me?
My favorite color is blue, and make it shiny because shiny is cool.
Dog, you're the one who
no
bought the
detailing.
golden axe, bro.
This is the one set I haven't bought.
This is the only set I have bought because it's the only skin that's okay, what the conclusion we've come to is that art is subjective, which is the thing that people have discovered.
Wrong.
They've known for years. So we're never going to come to a conclusion.
Which one is best?
Yeah, I mean,
I'm
Team
really
Prison,
interested, actually,
Team
now.
Gaudy Gold. I don't know what you want to call it, but
Okay, to get away from the skins debate for a second, though, the other thing that they talked about with acts and episodes, and something that I know that Matt really wanted to talk about, but he's busy baking at the moment for the Overwatch League, is that, those ones, the .exe, Jesus, is that maps are being released, but maps or other major features are being released every episode, which is like every 6 months. And he said that at the moment, considering that the map design, generally speaking, is the thing that is kind of lacking the most in Valorant, he would have preferred much more of a focus on that, to maybe not like one every 2 months, but certainly like put more attention in creating cool maps and redoing the maps rather than releasing new agents.
I would tend to agree. I think also more importantly, the new agents is also by new features. I'm assuming they mean like game modes potentially. I don't think so. Well, maybe. That is weird language that they used, but new maps are important, obviously, because there's 4. But then also, I think the game really desperately needs casual game modes for real casuals to play. Yeah. Because that's the thing too. Even when you're talking about the battle pass, how long it takes to get everything. If a casual player, it can only commit to 1 or 2 games a night because they're long games, they're 40 minutes. They're not going to get through the battle pass. But also, it's just, I suspect it's not fun for real casual players to be playing a 40-minute game where they're waiting around for maybe 15 minutes of it because they're not in the game, they're dead. I just think they really, really desperately need some new game modes. So I prefer that over agents too.
They did say that they're releasing a new game mode before episode 2, which presumably will be in like, I guess like 4 months. This system is really confusing right now because they are only just starting to use this language. But if we kind of think like 6 months from the beginning of Ignition would be 4 or 5 months from now. So sometime within then, they said we're likely to see a new game mode.
That has to be deathmatch, right? Because they've been hyping up deathmatch forever now, and everyone wants it.
Is deathmatch really like casual though?
No.
You know what I mean?
No,
like it doesn't. I would prefer something like gun game because I feel like it kills almost 2 birds with 1 stone in that you can warm up a little bit with it before you play, but also it is like a fun casual experience too.
No, you need both.
Well, obviously you need both, but it's about which you release first, isn't it?
Yeah, I think you need both.
yeah, there's not a lot of casual draw to the game currently in its iteration right now. If you think about how much Overwatch released with in comparison to actually, how much did Overwatch release with?
Well, yeah, that's the thing. I don't think it really did, right? Like, didn't it just release with the basic version?
It was like quick
like
play, custom games.
What's the quick play?
Yeah.
Yeah, there was.
I mean, how would people play the game if there wasn't quick play?
I didn't think there was competitive at the beginning. Sorry,
there wasn't competitive.
Like I thought there was only one way to play the game at the beginning.
Yeah, wasn't there like 2 months before?
It was 2 months before they released ranked in Overwatch. But I actually,
which is pretty similar to this.
In hindsight, they haven't added that much, but also these are the things that people are going to be comparing your game to when you do a new release. It's existing games with all this content, and like it's all well and good saying you're going to be bringing out content later, but Overwatch has arcade mode and gun game and deathmatch and 1v1s and role-playing servers.
Yeah, I was going to say, and a lot more lore as well.
Like a lot more lore.
Developed characters that people like that are very iconic game characters of the past decade.
But wouldn't you agree that Valorant seems like it's on the right path? Like it looks like it could progress at a pretty similar rate to a game like Overwatch, for example, and start bringing out like way more game modes, more maps, way more agents, the lore, like all of the shit is good.
I think they blew their load too early. You know what I mean?
With what?
Did they?
With releasing the game.
Oh,
when they did.
I think they can kind of get away with releasing the game now with like the pandemic and stuff going on, and I think there will be like a second hype wave once things go back to normal and like people turn up at school and talk about it and like events and shit.
I mean, maybe. I just feel like it's hard to get that hype again that it had.
I think this game was really good for a release. There aren't a lot of the games that we now consider to be huge games were not as good as this at release. I think that people kind of forget that because they don't remember the bad times at the beginning of games. But I mean, what are the biggest games right now? Like, I mean, obviously Fortnite took ages to be able to get off the ground, and it just had like a resurgence later on. Overwatch, when it first released, I think was criticized the same kind of way in terms of the observing tools and that kind of stuff when it came to competitive, which they obviously worked on massively.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like the whole system has been, and you compare it to like the battle royale games as well, and there's way more polish than any battle royale game ever released with Valorant. So I feel like this is
Apex pretty good.
Was it when it first came out?
Yeah.
That was kind of the thing about Apex. It was
it was. Yeah, it was really polished.
Surprise.
They just I mean there was no announcement. They just paid a bunch of influencers and it was out. It was like that was actually a really good release. Yeah.
I would also say it took a while for League of Legends to get good.
Yeah, but these games were
two.
so long ago. I feel like it should be there's different expectations these days for a game to actually come out swinging.
When does a game ever come out swinging?
Apex?
I mean, Apex didn't carry that on, though. It didn't get better, right? It just
I mean, arguably it has, but the hype has just died off of it because people played Fortnite or whatever. It's a difficult one. I mean, the game is good. I enjoy playing the game a lot, in its current state. Don't get me wrong, but people are going to make comparisons to other stuff, and I think the way you mitigate that is by delaying the release date. I almost feel like they released it early to capitalize off of the Twitch hype, thinking that was going to carry over, with the drop system, and also to try and get ahead of release schedules of games that are already going to come out in November. Or this year.
I don't think that it would have been any more hyped had they kept it in beta forever.
It could have been, depending on how much content they released on the release.
It depends how much they really add on to it. If they kept the game into like a bug fixing mode and like took the beta down and re-released it every now and then, with a big update. Anyway, we're going down some rabbit holes here. We can move on to the next segment unless anybody has anything else to add.
We had some patch notes.
Yeah, we'll do
as well.
patch notes as the next thing. As far as I'm aware, they made some changes to Viper. I still haven't seen much Viper being played, actually, even in my ranked games.
I know that Cloud9, I was looking back through how Cloud9 got eliminated from the T1 Invitational, because I don't think it was actually on stream. And I saw that they played Sageless Viper comp in their games at some point.
Interesting.
And they're about the only team that did, and they lost.
Yeah. But I think that might be the least of Cloud9's concerns as a team.
That's absolutely true.
So rather than the comps, you could focus in another direction. But yeah, the patch notes, they got released 1.02. So what did they add? They added a buff to Viper. Riot Korea has a really good video. The Korean Valorant YouTube page has a video that shows every buff with its pre-nerf. So that's sorry, cool. Kurt, I should have thought about that, but I didn't at the time. But yes, I like the change. So the biggest thing for me has been the bullet tagging, and you might not think it's that noticeable, but the amount of I've got probably about 5 hours worth of Twitch clips of me getting tagged and glued to the floor by a classic pistol from across the map, and I'm just like losing my mind in the game at the time. And you could say, maybe you shouldn't be stood out in the open, and it's like there is no way that a free gun should just be able to glue me to the floor if I'm like caught. Especially if my movement's quick enough and I react fast enough. Anyway, they've made some adjustments to it, so slowly making it better.
It feels better now, right? I have not noticed those situations. I feel like the game plays as it was intended now.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was just a good change, period.
I think the biggest changes in this patch, personally, though, haven't really been the tagging, but more like the tweaks to maps. And that might seem like a really weird thing because they haven't massively changed any maps, but they have committed in this patch to removing shitty little corners that are everywhere. And Valorant has a lot of these corners where it's just a 50-50. If you are one guy and you are trying to clear an area of the map, you gotta walk through a door and you gotta look right or you gotta look left. And there could be a guy behind either of the corners just tucked themselves in. And they've got some kind of images down here where they've basically just put junk in some of the corners, right? But it's balanced those areas very nicely. It's taken away Bren's favorite little Bucky spot in Haven Garage as well.
No. I never played with the Bucky there.
Oh, sorry, the shorty
okay,
spot.
I'm gonna send you the video here.
Oh God,
it's in the channel.
He's just using it as an opportunity to plug his own highlight clips.
Bro, this is the video made by Riot Korea.
I thought you were just gonna show me your Bucky highlights from Haven Garage Part 2.
No, here it is here. So this is a sick video, and apparently they're gonna make this for every single patch that details the exact changes to every map.
This is really well made.
Yeah. So this is sick, and it showcases all the little corners. This was one of my biggest issues with the game, and I increased my sensitivity because of the amount of 50 or like 180 degrees corner checks you had to do in this game. Like, because to swing 180 degrees, because I play a very low sense, I actually increased it, and I've decreased it now back to my old sense because thankfully there's a lot less of them in the game. But it was necessary for the longest time to literally have to check one corner. You'd have to wide swing out of some areas and just swing and pray, you know? It's kind of absurd.
I also like the change that they made. I'm sure they'll go over it at some point, but it's on a main of Ascent. Yeah, this one. So you can now get over the top and peak this top angle. You can self-boost your way up there. And so it is. It's really good. And this one, curving it, such a smart adaptation to the top there so that you don't have to like wide swing to peak the corner. You can just do a shallow one. I love this though, because not just for the changes they've made, but for the philosophy that it embodies, is that they are going to keep tweaking these maps until the maps are good. They're not just going to put out junk into the world.
As well. Cut. So here you can see Viper's walls changed. So this is before, where you get stopped by objects. Now it just goes straight through walls. Which is honestly a pretty big change. Massive. And I think the longer teams play around with it, you'll probably see a lot more Viper being played. This is ranked, I guess. They're like, ranks in the game. I don't know what this is. I don't know Korean. But this is the rank update.
It is ranked.
Yeah.
Oh, so they changed the look of Immortal as well. I think they made Immortal look worse, personally.
What?
And then the surrender feature. So we can talk a little bit about this. I hate the surrender feature.
Yeah, I think it's awful.
I think this is a terrible addition to the game because it's
not like...
Have you
actually been in a game that's been surrendered yet?
I got people surrendering against me, which feels even worse. So I
really?
haven't had teammates tilt and like... Actually, no, once I've had teammates tilt and like ask us to surrender, but obviously like I'm playing, I'm never going to surrender. It requires all of
you
your
might
team
want to pause
agree.
this video real quick.
But yeah, if you're dominating and you're like getting into the grip of it, like I was playing a game just to kind of like warm up as well before I jumped on with some other friends, and then I get halfway through the game and we're just dominating the T side, and the other team gives up, and you're like, okay, now I've just got 20 minutes where I can't play the game because I'm like, I planned it out that it would take 45 minutes or something else. Now I'm just sat around for 20 minutes and I didn't get the satisfaction of really winning. Right.
I really dislike it in this game in particular because it's not like League of Legends where if you accrue a 10k gold lead across the board, you have a monstrous chance of winning and the enemy has no chance. I think having a surrender system just on the basis of the way that game's designed makes sense. But in this game, there is always an opportunity to come back. And because every round is a new setting, and yes, the economy carries over, but you can... If you are smart, I've had games where I've come back from literally 1 and 11 at the half.
Oh, I've lost.
I've had games where I've lost at 1-11. We literally had a game where we lost. We were
10-2.
10-2 at the half, and we lost it because Gumba.
Yeah, that was because Gangster was throwing though.
Gangster wasn't playing with us.
Oh, wasn't he?
Oh no, he was. I think he was. Yeah.
I think he was. I think it was Gangster and Gumba just throwing.
I blame Gumba more for getting in. Listen, we can get into it another time. But the point is, every game is winnable, and actually at the higher ranks, no one surrenders. I've noticed, no one surrenders at the higher ranks at all.
Yeah, because they know.
because they know that that is the case. But it's so, I mean, I just think it's a horrible concept to put in the game.
Well, also, originally, when they first added it, I'm not sure whether they fixed this, but you needed 5 votes. So if one of your players disconnected, you couldn't even surrender.
Which is like the main reason you would want to surrender, right?
Yeah. Right. Well, I was going to say, so what do you do in that situation then, though, when one of your teammates rages out of there and
You're just
breaks his motherboard?
Can't do anything.
I don't know. Yeah. Because that's
I
the
will
only...
say, though,
do you not want a surrender feature in the game then?
I think only
Yes,
if...
I do if you have a teammate that has left.
But
And
even then,
only
they
then
have
should you be
catch-up
able to-
mechanics in the game. If you have a teammate that leaves, you get an ult orb and a spawn. On pistol rounds, you get light
Well,
armor.
but so maybe you win the pistol, but then after that.
But this is the kind of game where you can hard carry. Like, you can win a 4v5. You can. It's
Sometimes.
hard, but you can.
You can. No, you can. You can for sure.
Yeah, to an extent, right? I
Like,
mean,
you
Depends on what
absolutely
rank
can.
you're as well. You know, like in lower ranks, there are way more mistakes done that you can capitalize off, and it's easier to snowball like that. But like in higher ranks, the mistakes just aren't there for you to really hard carry. So it depends where you are. I think personally that it feels kind of shitty with surrender because when you win based on a surrender, there's no visual representation of you actually winning that game. It's sort of just like getting disconnected from a game. Compared to like Overwatch, where if you win because the game gets canceled or whatever, because they had a lever, then you see your skill rating go up and like there's actually like a feel-good moment there. But if you just win based on a surrender in Valorant, you're like, okay, well, this contributed, I don't know how much, and it's just kind of over.
Yeah, I
know?
think you do see roughly, like, it still counts. Like, if you go into your career profile, you can still see the increments. But this is another thing that people have been criticizing Valorant for, is not showing the actual mathematical number, like the amount of games you need to play with a net bonus, like, you know, win-loss, to actually rank up.
Yeah.
Because you just don't know. It's hidden from you, which is another thing that people have been criticizing.
They should be transparent with how much you're getting from like a surrender win. Like, are you getting I don't even know. There's no rating. I mean, are you getting rating as if the enemy team had that amount of rounds and you got 13
so the way it
rounds?
works-
Yes, yeah,
Or-
they have said that that's how it works.
Okay. Yeah. But maybe to, you know, make surrender a bit harder on people and to not like promote surrendering. Maybe they should just make it so if you surrender, then you win or lose like it's 13-0, and so you like get punished for surrendering.
But the problem with that is there are times like if you do have a lever on your team, it's not fun to play 4v5 if you're just getting rolled.
Oh yeah, of course.
You know? So I wouldn't want to punish people for that system. I just think that you should only be able to surrender in those circumstances. I also agree with you completely that Overwatch does the SR system way better than CSGO or Valorant does.
Yeah.
By giving you that little like boost of dopamine at the end of a match where your SR goes like brrrr and moves up.
yeah, it's the best system because it's the most transparent system. It just shows you exactly what's
I'm
happening.
actually shocked that they didn't make adjustments to it
Yeah.
when they were going from beta to now with the ranked.
They've said,
Surprised as
they've
well
said
that-
they're going to in the future.
Yeah, I'm surprised as well that they haven't added a top 500, but maybe that's on their radar because it
mean-
seemed like that was a point that was being brought up quite often
Yeah,
in the
isn't
beta
that
with ranked.
Radiant?
Well,
It's not, but it's not really a
But it's-
top
it's not
500,
really
is
a
it? It's
top
just a top
500.
rank.
I think, I mean, having that physical list. I mean, yeah, I really think Overwatch, their system is just the best because it's the most transparent with all the information, which makes it the most
Yeah.
captivating to play and,
Yeah.
and the most satisfying to rank up. You can see exactly where you are.
Yeah, man.
So,
Yeah.
Wow. Should we move on?
My
Wait, hold on.
Yeah,
We got more of the patch notes as well. What do you want to say, Josh?
Oh, really? Oh, no. I didn't realize you had more patch notes to go through.
Yeah, on the
what
video
else was in the
itself. So
patch?
one of the changes that we brushed past was the minor quality of life stuff with Jett's ult. So she now gains her knives back when she kills a Phoenix clone. That's the same for soul orbs as well. So Reyna now gets a soul orb when she kills the Phoenix clone. Slight nerf to Phoenix. This is... Which one's this? Oh. What?
Yeah, they
Smoke.
changed smoke density a little bit.
Oh, okay. This is the bullet tagging. So look at this. I didn't realize how much of a difference it really was until I saw this. But it is a big, like, if you see it played out like
Wow.
that with two brimstones running against each other, Like you can see how much of a difference it does make as the bullet tagging change to it. Because previously it was very suppressive.
It looks like he's walking through molasses.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely a good change.
Yeah. So that's a general patch. Now, it's all in all, I think it's a good patch. You know?
Yeah.
I will say the Phoenix things I'm not a huge fan of. And I mean, I am a Phoenix player, but because Phoenix, when he uses run it back, is so pressured to push through like absurd scenarios, like pushing through smokes, pushing through trap wires, like whatever, getting rewarded for killing someone who's under so much pressure is kind of whack. But maybe that's only me.
I feel like the Jett one is perfectly fine because, like, you don't want to be in a position as Jett where
Jett is fine.
Where
Reyna,
you don't want to shoot. But yeah, the Reyna one's kind of weird, and I feel like you can easily justify if you rolled that change back, you just be like, "Well, when is the fire person? He doesn't have a soul." I don't know. Like, there's a very easy way of like balancing that by the law.
Yeah.
You know?
Lord, dude.
I like that.
Yeah.
He doesn't.
Because it is an ultimate,
soul.
right? It's supposed to be strong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, the biggest issue
Jett
of
is an
Reyna,
ultimate.
I think that's Reyna's least concern. I think Lear is a silly concept. We discussed it last podcast as well that we did last episode. Like the idea that this little ball can come up and you have to change your line of sight. Like genuinely, here's what I do when a Lear orb happens. I turn my camera so that I can see when she peaks, so it's out of line of sight of the orb, and I have to just hit the flick of a lifetime. Like I don't even go for the orb anymore. Like I have to intentionally.
I've started doing that after you mentioned it.
I have to intentionally mess up my
more than you
crosshair placement, like to have the best chance, because otherwise it just messes up your spray control.
Yeah.
Silly.
Silly. Talking about Reyna as well, the brand new agents that were released. The thing that I saw being discussed on Twitter, I think it was Sliggy actually, the coach of Fish123, said that with the amount of agents being released, he thinks Riot are going for a pick ban process in the future.
Yeah.
He thinks that the part of the reason that they are going for a huge amount of agents in the game is because they want, like, because at the moment what you've got is at the top level, you know the style of your opponent, so you can in some sense pick your comp based on what they play. Like there are some teams that play sageless comps on Ascent, for example, and so you know kind of how to deal with them. You might make a minor adjustment. Most teams don't, but you can conceive that might be possible. But a lot of the time, if you don't know your opponent, you are just kind of randomly picking what you think is just the best comp for you to play. There's no counter picks. But if you get that many agents into the game, some of them are going to interact with each other in like specific ways, presumably.
That's super interesting actually to even think about as well, because that could be one of the biggest arguments I've seen online about the game currently is the power of ops of the operator. Because they are crazy powerful in terms of the accuracy while moving, while walking. Your how quick you move when you're scoped in is very reminiscent to when I used to watch a lot of CS back in 2015, before the AWP nerf, when we saw Kenny S and Guardian just popping off with it. You know, I think Guardian was an AWPer. He was.
Yeah, but I think he was more passive. I think Kenny S was the more aggressive one.
But you had these dominant. Because when Guardian was on Na'Vi, it was Na'Vi, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it was like Guardian's AWPing was, or AWPing, I should say, was like a centerpiece of that team. Same with Kenny S when he was on Titans, I think, at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm really stretching here.
Look at that, dude.
I did
knowledge
it.
coming out.
Yeah. I mean, I should remember that because it's the only esports I was watching at the time. But it's very reminiscent watching Wardell play. It reminds me of Kenny S. The aggressive op angles, and that's
JW, bro.
But a big part of that, maybe,
true.
the argument you would make in a game like CS is, well, you got to nerf the weapon, right? So what they did is they changed the movement speed when you're scoped in. They changed the accuracy as well in terms of how quickly I think you can stop or how quickly you can reset your aim to zero.
Like quick scoping, I think, right?
Yeah, so you can't really take these aggressive angles anymore. But in this game, if they had a pick and ban system, you just ban Jett, and suddenly Wardell is limited in terms of how much he can really get done. Because Jett is an enabler of those aggressive op angles because of her dash. It's like a get out of jail free
presumably, though,
card.
if there's that many agents in the game, there would be some other ones that are really good to warp on as well. And, you know, like he still plays Sova on some of the maps. So I was more thinking in terms of the pick ban that there would be, you know how like Brimstones are setting up these like specific mollies for the post plant and stuff?
Yeah.
There'd be like some kind of hero that has, this is going to sound dumb, but like a milk splatter that gets rid of the fire area or something.
Milk.
So I thought you were going to say like a force field. No.
Well, yeah, no, a force field. That's what I meant. That's what I meant. No, I meant,
me.
you know the way that smokes put out mollies in CS?
Yes.
Yeah.
But smokes obviously don't do that in this game. So there would have to be some kind of ability that was good on its own, but also specifically countered mollies.
Yeah.
And that was kind of, I don't know why I came up with milk splatter, probably because it just counters
I've got
hot food.
I've been thinking about this a lot. Does anybody else have anything to add before I go on a tangent? Because I've been talking about it.
I just want to say that I think dying to Molotovs because there's no counter is like the worst shit in the game. Like when you have a Viper just sniping Venom shit, it's just... Oh.
Yep.
Milk! Here it
The
is!
milk. Nicely done, Kurt. Well done.
TF2 podcast when?
So I tweeted about this because I watched I can't remember what game it was, but it might have been a game-winning play where they literally had to play. The worst scenario in the world is playing against some goddamn Reddit Brimstone player, and he's in a 1v2 with his ult and a molly, and I'm thinking on Haven A, and he's on long, and you know that he's sending in a Molotov and then the ultimate to just stall it out and win. And the only outplay...
It was winning play. It was 100 Thieves against FaZe.
That's it. That was the game I was watching. And I saw this, and I put out a tweet saying, there needs to be some outplay, because in CS, anyone can buy a smoke, and anyone has the opportunity to outplay that molly, right? By just laying it down and negating it. In Valorant, there's no such thing as negating a Molotov. It's just there. And it creates these really frustrating scenarios to play into. Because the only counterplay is to play fast. But when they have the bomb down and you only have a limited amount of time anyway, sometimes that's just not an option, you know? Yeah. Sometimes those quite literal tens of seconds matter so much. Like, it's not just a second or two, it's tens of seconds with the amount of time you buy with that Molotov.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, the counterplay at the moment will become to flush out regular, like, for example, on Bind A, the place where you go as Brimstone to set up that default molly is the same place every time. It's an A short, it's at the top. And so if you know that you're playing against a Brim that hasn't used his molly, perhaps the game could get to a point where you just don't even worry about the bomb and you just push like straight towards that area.
I think that's what you're gonna have to do. But unless
it's such a time sink, though.
It's such a time sink, and it's so. I think it's terrible game design, and I think the way they solve this is the Molotov already moves very slowly in the air. Okay, and I think, hear me out on this. This is gonna sound super cracked.
You can shoot it.
I think you should be able to shoot the Molotov.
I actually don't mind that. I think that would be cool.
Because anyone can do that. Anyone can do that. It's difficult to do, but it's easy to do if you know what their Brimstone's doing. So add some element of mind games where Brimstone players are now incentivized to peek with their Molotov in case it gets shot. This is my tweet. Yeah. I tagged the Riot devs because I'm like, I want to hear what they have to say about this. Spoiler alert, they didn't respond. I'm
going to go like that tweet right now.
Yeah.
I'm going to give it the old verify like.
I like that. That is a very good idea. And also, I don't think they foresaw what would happen, giving Brimstone 2 area of effect abilities that last over a long period of time.
Granted,
but that is disastrous.
Granted, he needs his ultimate to be able to pull one of it off. But as a Brimstone, I find it in professional play and even in ranked as well when I'm playing Brimstone, I want to save my ultimate for those post-plant scenarios, usually. Because it's so powerful at just winning you around straight up. And sometimes there's scenarios where you want to use your ult to get a quick kill, because that can be game winning, but it's just guaranteed impact to just deny the plant. So
yeah, I think most of the time at the pro level, you probably shouldn't be saving it for the post plant, because you can't guarantee that you're going to actually be alive for the post plant, especially when you're doing like executes on sites. Like, I don't think that's feasible, but there's still a lot of times where you just happen to have your ult at the end because you haven't found a good opportunity to use it in the fight, or you've just managed to pick it up during the round by getting kills.
Well, the Brimstone player is never going to be the one initiating as well. It's almost likely that he is going to be one of the final people. I don't know. Alive.
There are some entry Brims, like FaZe Marv plays like a pretty entry style.
Yeah.
That feels like it would get phased out over time, though.
I mean, a little bit, but the thing is, once you actually deploy your smokes, what's it gonna do?
Like, you are just you're just a walking potato at that point, you know, with a gun.
Oh, you're just a gun. So
yeah, cool. Good talk,
Interesting.
guys. Good talk. Let's end the
that it?
podcast.
Are we done?
No, we're not done. We're gonna move into the pro scene now because I don't think we talked about it. The last episode we did, we didn't talk about. We talked about ardiis getting potentially banned, but ardiis' name has been cleared. Now the source of this is ardiis, so I don't know how much to read into, but ardiis has come out saying he spoke to Riot and they did their own investigation and they found that he was not guilty of anything. Which is good because ardiis was looking like one of the best oppers in the world. And I would have hated to have seen his career crumble before it even began because of some allegations that could have been correct. I mean, it was his voice in the videos that were coming out.
Oh, I mean, he's already admitted to contemplating match fixing. Like, there's no denying it. It was in the video. But yeah, he denies having ever match fixed in CS or in Valorant, and he also denies cheating, which I don't think he cheated. I think the match fixing allegations are much more, likely to have some basis to them. But Richard Lewis has actually reported it on things, or rather, I think it was Richard or Decay. I can't quite remember. It might have been Decay, the guy that reports in CS, has talked about situations like this before, though, in the past, where, and I'm not saying that ardiis has done anything, but there have been situations in CS where they know that there was match fixing, but because you can't get the financial details, there is just no way to prove it. If you can't work with betting agencies, then what like how are you supposed to gather proof for that? Unless people are writing down, hey, I match fix now, you just have to follow the money, and people you can't follow the money if you don't have access to a working relationship with betting sites. So.
Yeah, I mean, I also like how in his statement he says he doesn't know what Riot did, how they cracked the code that he's innocent. He doesn't know how they did it or what they investigated. I mean, who knows? But that because what you just said, I mean, what did they look into? How does Riot know? I don't know, but I guess they know. I'll take their word for it.
Yeah, I mean, sure.
But it is good. It is good to have a system where you are not going to get banned or stopped from joining teams unless there is some proof,
Yeah.
So
yeah,
because people throw around fake accusations about cheating, particularly constantly in esports.
Well, especially in these type of games. Like I imagine that if there are any Valorant devs that listen to this podcast, they probably get pretty sick at the CS comparisons, but it is the most apt in terms of the player base and just the way that the esports scene has developed because there's so many tier 2 CS players that have moved over.
I was looking, Bren, at the top clips from the T1 Invitational, the T1 Showdown that happened this weekend, because I was looking for our play of the week, our nice little segment that we have at the end. And so I clicked on the top 10 clips from the T1 Invitational. And about number 8, about the 8th most viewed clip with about 3,000 views was one called Subrosa Aim Lock, where he just twitches his mouse and happens to go behind someone who's like the other side of the map. Just totally randomly. And it's just people. He got massive cheating accusations in CS as well, which I think were unfounded. I mean, I haven't really looked at the evidence, but they appear to have.
Oh, here it is. Cuz found it. Is this it?
I think this is. Yeah, it goes on to Subrosa's point of view here, and he just has like, it's that there. That was it.
Oh, come on. That's nothing, though.
That was it.
This is just the inevitability of this type of FPS game, and especially with people who have flicky aim like he does. Because that was a thing back in CS as well. I remember there were clips, people would just post clips of him doing his warm-up routine, shooting bots in CS, and he was just 100% flick onto headshot. And when you have that type of aim style, and you're doing that in a tactical FPS, that breeds fishy-looking clips. But in reality, it's just the nature of the game combined with how individual players move their mice.
I'm sure if you cherry pick clips from my stream, you could find some fishy shit. Yeah, just in terms of, you don't think so? I think so. Personally.
No, you're just too shit. Like, I mean that in the nicest way. I mean that in the nicest way. But with most players, with like average players, I think the reason that they throw around so many accusations is that they can't conceive of being good enough to hit certain shots. So they are convinced that someone's hacking, and so then they start looking for the coincidences.
I think I'm good enough, but that's okay. I was actually feeling a little bit down after last night, Josh, because I finished the night with a 4-20 Jett game. And
I'm sure that one had many fishy clips.
Yeah. I didn't have a good show. You know those games where you are tilted. Oh my god. No, okay. No. Put this shit on a 0.25. 0.25 this. Go back. Go back. Back. 0.25.
Yeah, can we review that?
Can we review this? 0.25 speed. We're going to go frame by frame because this was... I mean, this is just not even...
I mean, that was horrific. What? That was
You like
just,
aimed at the wall.
You flicked off of him twice. You were right on him.
To be fair, you did 120 damage.
Yeah. This is... okay. I'm not going to get into it.
You shoot the wall.
You did shoot
I think the game was actually giving you a little bit more than you deserved.
Yeah, maybe the game gave me a little bit more than I deserved right then. I got some different clips, but Kurt picked the wrong one.
Yeah, sure.
Anyway,
There's just a guy in elbow you were locking onto. That's what you were missing.
So yeah, waiting for my accusations at any time now. You need to talk about the pro scene?
Yeah,
about
I will.
somebody... Go on, Johnny.
I wanted to say first that I think that the Valorant devs were kind of caught off guard by having accusations this early into the game, because like there's no governing body for the esports scene yet of Valorant, and so they're like, who realistically is going to be our PR person if we have to deny accusations and like do investigations? Like there is, like I don't really think you want to tweet that out on the official Valorant account, and like even some of the like the higher up devs, that's kind of weird because it gets personal. Like there's nothing in place for Valorant to publicly deem the accusations invalid or whatever.
They did tweet out something like, we vet every player that plays in esports tournaments that's like getting paid out or something like that. Somebody tweeted about it. It was like, when artists had these accusations, people were saying, oh, he's playing in your esports tournaments. He was doing really well. And one of the devs responded that they do vet people involved in high-level tournaments.
Interesting. I wonder how they do that. I mean, they got a pretty...
It beats me. But I'll take their word for it.
There must be some like more in-depth manual procedure, right, that they use for those
maybe
games.
the invasive anti-cheat just really drills into the inner workings of the PC. And
like, for example, a lot of the time with the general public, you use ban waves to not let cheat creators know that their cheat has failed, right? You want to kind of trap cheaters. You don't want them to be able to use it as direct feedback. So perhaps with the esports people, they specifically look at it so that they don't get caught in a ban wave. They actually get caught immediately. You know, that's a possibility of how they might do it.
Sure. Yeah, could be. Let's talk about the pro scene here, and this is something that I'm going to need your help with because I haven't been following the EU scene that much. But G2 have made some acquisitions finally on top of Mixwell. ardiis was rumored to be joining it. He hasn't. If ardiis, after being heavily rumored to be joining G2, now doesn't because of the accusations that he's been cleared of, that's super unfortunate. But G2 is shaping up to be a bit of a super team.
They're shaping up to be a monstrous team. Mixwell's an incredibly good secondary AWP if ardiis actually does end up joining, and ardiis is easily the best AWPer in Europe for my money. And then PaTiTek, I think, is Polish, and he's been running with the Forden Boars playing Phoenix, and he slangs. This guy has the most like shaky aim I've ever seen, or not ever seen, but he's got that kind of aim where it's not smooth like most CS players. He plays like, I don't know, like a, I guess like a, play? He like shakes around them as if he's trying to like micro track onto their heads. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like he's constantly making aim adjustments. It's that style of aiming. But my God, the guy taps heads, and he's actually a pretty good secondary AWPer as well in his own right. So it seems like they are going to have so much firepower. If they ended up adding ardiis and Scream on top of this, that team would dominate Europe, I think.
This is really interesting because I think PaTiTek, did I pronounce it right? PaTiTek?
I don't know.
I think he was back banned in Counter-Strike.
He was, yeah. He was banned from playing because of a previous VAC ban on his account. So
yeah. Well, I mean, he frags, so.
Yeah.
For unknown reasons, but let's give him the benefit of the doubt.
That shaky dude. If he has shaky aim and he's been vacked before, the Reddit's gonna have a field day with this one. It's gonna be rough for the young Pole.
ardiis and PaTiTek at the same time. Let's go.
Yeah.
How is the EU
They're
scene
so good.
kind of shaping up? Because it's no secret, right? There's less money, there's less investment in the EU side of esports. Like G2, if they're making this super team, it's a shame that we're not going to see international tournaments for a while, to be honest.
That's true. I mean, I can give you a quick rundown of the European scene because I've been watching a lot of it as well. We had the ePulse Prodigy and the Wave Invitational recently. They're like the big tournaments, and then the Rise of Titans happened a couple of days ago as well. I didn't actually get to catch the final of the Rise of Titans because I was catching up on T1. But basically, the big teams are a team called Party Pirates has pretty much come out of being a mediocre team to now being the best team in Europe. They're only best by a tiny margin, but they are really good. They're led by IGL Angel from CS. He's like a really notorious CS player. And Shao is their main fragger. He's pretty sick, but Party Pirates have got a pretty good like spread. Angel actually frags pretty well. Artist frags pretty well as well. And Dinksy, who's their Cypher player, is a secondary AWPer alongside Shao. And they're really well-rounded, and they're quite strategically sound as well. I've enjoyed watching them play quite a lot, and they've been winning tournaments that they've been entering pretty recently. The second best team I would say is Fabricant, and Fabricant have been playing almost exclusively sageless compositions, and they have been winning tournaments and making finals playing this, and it is so fun to watch them play. I would really encourage anybody, like, these are former Overwatch guys as well, so it's like our audience perfectly.
Wait,
if you are
I can't even see
interested
the
in
names.
European scene at all, go and watch them.
Who is this? Is that Zupe?
No, it's not Zupe.
No. So
Zipan.
finish.
So Zipan's probably the best rifler at the moment in Europe. Maybe you could argue that somebody like Scream is a little bit better, but I think Zipan's been performing fantastically recently. And they run, they run a Sageless comp where they have, it's pretty similar to what TSM run on Ascent, except they don't have a double smoke. They have a Breach and a Raise. So they have Breach and Raise to entry. They have Blinds with the Omen. And then they run the Cypher and the Sova as well for kind of intel and also recon dart executes. And they run that on every map except Split, where you need the Sage to be able to slow down in mid. And they're really good. They have been doing very well recently. And they just won the tournament against Started From CS, which is the Happy Maniac and Existence team, who are probably the third best team in Europe right now for my money.
Yeah, I think Zipan was really the addition that unlocked the potential of Fabricant when he came from Ninjas in Pyjamas, I think.
Yeah.
And he brought so much fragging power to this team that really helped them out. I feel good because I called out Fabricant in our last episode.
Oh, you did, actually.
Yeah.
Because I'm Swedish, and that's why. No, but Zipan was a great addition to this team, so I'm happy they're doing well, of course.
Yeah. And then after that, you've kind of got like Hip Hip Hip, which are a pretty good team, actually. And they've been placing pretty deeply, and they've got a cool style as well. They play a lot of Omen, and then Fish123 are still hanging around, but they just have not managed to fix their issues from losing artists. They don't have an op player. It changes the whole style of their play. They have to play fast with rifles, and they're just bad at playing fast with rifles. They can't play the same style that they had previously.
Do you think, just based on the evidence of Fish123 falling off once ardiis is gone, that the top teams, to be a top team right now, you almost need this primary, secondary opper, like as a
I think
guarantee?
you at least need a primary opper.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird to me that teams are able to do anything without an opper. There were a few teams in the T1 Showdown that were using
Who opts for
like
Sentinels?
5 rifles. For who?
Sentinels.
I can't.
I mean, I should
think
know 'cause
Sentinels were one of the teams that was running majority. What do you call it? 5 rifles.
Yeah,
They're one
they
of the teams that
don't.
wasn't using very
They
much.
don't like.
No, it's
running-
Shazam. Shazam is their
Shazam's
AWPer,
their
though.
AWPer.
He doesn't do it a
Breach.
lot.
No,
Yeah,
but that's the thing. Like, ops are so powerful in this game. I almost feel like you need a really comfortable opper, and normally that'll be your I don't for lack of a better term, flex player, right? The guy who's playing like Sova or Jett or something that's kind of filling in. And on Sentinels, that'll be Sinatra, but he hates opping. Sinatra hates opping. And it's like so powerful in this game that I feel like you are just inherently going to be at a disadvantage just on the way that the game is played if you don't take advantage of how powerful ops are on certain characters like Jett, or just even in general, you know?
Yeah.
Do you think we're in for an op nerf?
I don't know if they'll nerf ops, personally.
I don't know. I think they're going to respond to community feedback. So if people think they're broken, they'll maybe tune it down a little bit. I think that, you know, it's really just a lack of utility to be able to flush ops out of their spots. You don't have 5 flashes and 5 smokes on your team. You have a range of other abilities. And so that's why I actually really like the way that Fabrican play with their Sageless composition. Because when you don't have a Sage, like, all right, you can't slow things down, you can't wall. But a lot of the time as well, you struggle to peak things because you're worried about taking damage because you can't heal it back up. And you're worried about getting into an AWP a lot of the time as well, which is part of the reason why I think it works so well on Ascent, is because you naturally play a kind of a little bit more timid and smoke things off just because you're scared of AWPs, which is like the same kind of style you want to use if you don't have a Sage on your team as well. And it's like very heavy execute. But Fabric can play with the breach. So you can just flash anybody into any area to try and take control away from ops and try and take control, like map control, without actually dry peeking, which is how Sage comps normally play.
Yeah, I mean, that's really the thing with the ops, right? There's just not deep flash options in the game. You can't flash an AWPer off of a deep angle. You just can't.
Yeah.
I mean, breach is the only one you kind of can. But even still, it's not as guaranteed as having, I mean, the CS comparison, like having a set long-range flash. So AWPers are just always able to hold the deep angle for as long as they want.
I think that's the downside of copying over so many mechanics from a game like CS in terms of the gunplay and how the game fundamentally plays without copying over just the fundamentals of the equipment and the utility, right? Like having some sort of outplay for Molotovs, having some way to flush out op angles as well, like by giving everybody flashes, you know, and not living up to select characters. It's another reason I didn't even think about that is why ops are so powerful as well, on top of why they're already so good. Interesting.
Yeah. But that's the only other European team to kind of go through, I think, is NiP, because NiP basically like signed a couple of players and then threw away their roster and re-signed some other people. It's super weird. They actually put out a tweet where they were like, we're looking for a head coach to build a roster at the moment. So anybody who's available.
I can respect that, though, because from what I've heard behind the scenes, majority teams right now in Valorant are player run.
Yeah.
Which
they don't have coaches and they don't want coaches.
They don't have coaches and they don't want coaches, which is
it's a good idea.
Crazy to me, bro. Actually, this is what happened at the start of the Overwatch scene, as far as I can remember, for a short while.
Yeah, it was a bit different though, I'd say. I mean, because back then as well, it was so hard for coaches to be at the same level of players in terms of like thinking strategically and theoretically. Yeah. Because there was an actual legit argument that you had to play at a high level to understand like the decision making going into it. Like it wasn't X and O's as much as Counter-Strike and Valorant is. So I think obviously coaches should be a thing right now for all Valorant teams, but for Overwatch, at least for the first year or so, until analysts caught up, like, you know, there was that period of time,
Yeah, and it is kind of odd as well, moving into a game like Valorant, where so many of the fundamentals carry over from CS, that so many of these teams do not want coaches, and that these player-run teams are a recipe for disaster, especially considering how much I'm hearing some of these teams are getting paid as well. Like... Yeah.
That's really that's absurd. The amount that they're getting paid and they have no organizational structure, that doesn't make any sense.
You're literally paying teenagers just to fuck around.
Well, that's that the endless CS comparisons, but it reminds me of at the time when years ago in Counter-Strike there weren't really coaches, and then they became a major key to a team's success a few years after that, to the point where now you hear about teams in CS like FaZe Clan, for instance, where like a player on the team has so much say over what's going on. I'm referring to Nico because he's basically chosen their new player on the team. But like those teams are being heavily criticized for those player-run decisions at this point because the staffing is.
But even that is
key.
Mostly European, right? As far as I'm aware, even NACS is still a bit of a wild region in terms of being player run more so than Europe.
No,
I mean, is that wrong?
Not really anymore. No.
Okay.
The top teams definitely have the structure.
Yeah, structure is, I think, hugely important for teams to succeed in general, and it blows my mind. And this leads me on to my next point as well. Cloud9, what the fuck is going on? Because this team is not playing well. They've added Relyks into their team.
Relyks is good.
Relyks is a great player, but it takes more than a great player to fix a team, and this team has some problems. Like, oh my goodness, Cloud9.
I just want to read out some of the stats. So the Spike.gg was the official partner of the T1 Invitational. And so even the Cloud9 games that didn't get streamed, they still covered them and released kind of the KDs at the end and stuff like that. And the heroes that were played and this kind of stuff. So I went through and I looked at Cloud9 because they lost to Together We Are Terrific, who are probably the best amateur team at the moment, the unsigned team in North America. And they have some pretty notable former CS players on there as well. Okay, so I'm taking a look, and it's a 2-0 loss for Cloud9. First map, Haven. Cloud9 run no Sage, and Tens drops 39 kills, and the next highest is 16. So, okay, cool. We go over onto the next map, and Tens does not drop kills, and they lose even harder. Again, running no Sage and running a Viper this time as well. Super strange. All right, so we'll move on to the next one. They lose 2-0 to Prospects as well, in which first map, it's bind, it's really close, and actually the rest of his team is fragging alongside him. Mitch has 19 kills playing Raze, and Tens has 19 as well. You go over to Haven, and they just get slaughtered, and Tens is again the top frag, but not by a ridiculous margin. Again, not running a Sage. And the only series where they looked competent at all, they played against FaZe and they went 1-2 against them. They actually won a map. The first map is Bind, and again, Tens drops 30 kills, next highest Relyks with 15. Jesus. So again, just monstrous performance from Tens. Nobody else putting up any kind of numbers. No Sage again. And then the map that they win is Haven, the only map where they ran a Sage. The only map where they ran a Sage, they won 13-12 against a decent team, FaZe, a top 4 team in this tournament. And this time, Tens drops 26 kills, but Relyks actually outfrags them at 29, so they do fairly well. Yeah. And then the next map, they go back to running a Sage again, but this time it's on Ascent, the only map where you can get away without running a Sage if you're a North American team, and they just get bodied 13-1 with no idea of how to play.
So outside of the compositions, though, watching Cloud9 play, they are a pug team without the skill necessary to be a pug team, is how I feel watching them. And to be fair, they've only officially signed 2 players now, and they've been playing with just kind of a mixed roster, but they've been playing with the same players roughly inside and out. I think that so many of these organizations that are buying into this idea of Valorant early are just praying that they just come across some miracle combo without really investing too much resources from like a structural standpoint. And I'm like, okay, that could work if you're just going into it with the bare minimums. But the numbers that are being thrown around for how much they're investing in individual players tells me that they're serious about it, but their actions don't, right? The money screams seriousness, but what they're actually doing to enable a team to be successful does not.
Also, I just want to point out, sorry, I was reading the Spike.gg's scores the wrong way around. They actually won that Ascent game 13-1 and lost 13-12 the previous one. Sorry. But the 13-1 was just FaZe shit in the bed. I got confused by the layout of Spike.gg. I knew people in the comments would call me up on it. Might be. Yeah, I don't want to... Cloud9 did not have a great performance.
I mean, but how much do you put into the Sageless compositions then, Josh? Because you put this topic in, you want to talk about it. I'm over this because you talked about it last episode.
Yeah. But, well, the Sageless comps, I think I kind of covered when I was talking about Fabricant, because they're really cool. It's awesome to look at, and I really do think that we've got to the point where Sageless comps are very viable if you understand how to play them. And you have to really use your utility and play fast executes and take map control in like aggressive manners. And you force the team with the Sage to play to kind of slow the game down and try and play retakes in a lot of scenarios and just try and dominate the fact that you can gather intel and slow people down.
Yeah.
I mean, them losing 3 maps before realizing that they should attempt to run Sage.
Was it 3 maps that they lost?
Yeah, it was 3 maps.
Something like that, yeah.
It was 3 maps.
almighty.
I mean, that leads me to believe either it was working in their scrims and they just felt hard-pressed to stick with it, or they just don't have the leadership that's going to address that
or the
between
manpower.
games. I mean, I don't know if that's a team, if they have any type of structure or coaching.
Sorry, what did you say, Johnny?
No, or the manpower, like someone who's actually like pretty decent at, Sage to begin with.
Yeah. From what I've heard behind the scenes, I don't know if this is applicable to Cloud9, but some teams, in terms of their work ethic, it's horrific.
I mean, that doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, what you just said is there are organizations that are willing to invest huge numbers into the players and not staff and coaches. But the players that are being invested in, there are a lot who they're not invested in the game. And they're not taking it as seriously as the dollars say.
Dude,
right?
I've heard some stories about some teams. I'm not going to name any names because it's a little bit rude to really call them out. This is some hot tub juice. Here we go. We're bringing it over to
Oh,
now.
there we go.
I've heard of some top teams that may not be performing very well recently that you would expect to, and it's more than one. In terms of scrim time that they're putting in, fuck all in the grand scheme of things. I'm talking like 3 hours a day, and that's it. Like in terms of scrim time, and then after that they just play ranked. It's like not good practice, no structure in place to actually facilitate them and help them grow as a team. Really just horrific mismanagement and just throwing money into the blender is what it feels like.
And this wouldn't be a problem if players weren't getting paid that much, because you could just use the argument, oh, well, it's the beginning of the esports scene. It's not a problem, these kind of things will develop. But if you're paying your players as if things are mega, mega serious, then the rest of your structure should reflect that.
It's just embarrassing.
It's
actually embarrassing.
And the players themselves. I think it's, it really is. It is embarrassing. And it's also, I can never wrap my mind around the organizations who will just rush to pick up players so early on. I get it with some of the streamers and the content creators. And you were kind of explaining how like Immortals, they really took their time to put together a roster of people.
Well, Immortals, when they were building their roster, they didn't focus on like streamers, on numbers, on social numbers. They focused, as far as I'm aware, Josh, correct me if I'm wrong, they did a tryout process.
Yeah, they did say that in their announcement video. That they even went into like the VALORANT stats. So like they know like clutch percentages and like it's crazy.
But they got people from
does a
all
lot of
over.
data analysis.
So I mean, if you're an organization and you want to be an early, I mean, that has to be the route you're taking, because I think the best thing you said was just that it's serious money. The money they're putting forward says serious, but they're investing in players who clearly aren't serious. I mean, in some cases, obviously.
Oh, you pulled up the Sentinels page.
Sentinels, though, looked massively improved in the T1 Invitational. Like they're a team that looked better. Like they didn't really beat any good team. Oh, well, I suppose Gen G, actually, because Gen G we expected to be good, but Gen G kind of...
Sorry, Johnny, I don't want to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to say before we move off of Cloud9, though, that like we were having these conversations about like spending a lot of money early, but the fact of the matter is they've only signed 2 players. And I think in that regard, Jack, the CEO of Cloud9, he's taking his time to see like what players are actually worth signing. And I think Ten's what was the org even before VALORANT. I think he came from like Apex or something.
No, he came from CSGO as well. And I agree. We're speaking kind of generally off the back of the Cloud9 topic. I wasn't even referring to Cloud9. Because I think so far their two people that they've signed are, I mean, Tens was another upcoming NACS pro, sick aim, all that. And he played with the Cloud9 CSGO team for a bit, but it just wasn't working. So he stayed signed to Cloud9, but was not on the active roster. And then he just switched over to VALORANT right away.
But this is one of the teams that I think is showing a bit of the issues we were talking about. But the fact of the matter is you've only signed 2 players and you don't have a coaching staff. Like, I think that's almost like how it's going to be in that scenario, you know, where some other teams, they have a full 5, they might even have a coach, and then they're not like putting in the time, and that's where you really go wrong, I think.
Yeah.
Sure. I also think though that Cloud9 need to invest in like the surrounding staff before they try and pick up a team. You know, you can't just rely on random people to put together a good roster or ask the players to try and, you know, pick things that work well.
Yeah,
I don't think that's a feasible approach.
Because like, if you're Jack, wouldn't you trust someone like Tense at least to start with, like finding some kind of resources?
I don't.
My issue with that though is that most of the time, if you ask players to kind of find a good team, they're players. Their skill isn't in scouting or identification of talent. Like, they can tell who they enjoy playing with, but a lot of the time that will end up being who they enjoy playing with rather than who they are good playing alongside. I think that's how a lot of the current teams have been built as well, is that they have friend groups or not even friend groups, but like former teammates as well. I'm not saying that everyone's like buddy, but they gel with people at the very beginning, and then they don't tend to kind of mix around. So you don't really get like you don't get a good test of what you could be. You just get stuck with a group, and that's the group. Like, for example, 100 Thieves signed the whole of High Ground, which I think they're a good amateur team. I think they were probably like best or second best, top three amateur team coming into like at the point where 100 Thieves signed them. And they basically just added Hiko straight in. But do I think, though, that that's the best thing that they could have possibly done? Probably not. Like, I think if you actually ran tryouts and tried to build a team around Hiko rather than slotting Hiko into a pre-existing team, you'd probably have longer-term success. And I don't mean that as like a knock on 100 Thieves. They actually did all right in this tournament. I just think that the process, there was no process. Or at least
it felt like
there wasn't like a... I don't know, like a replicatable process for other teams to look at. It may work out in this instance, but you're not always just going to be able to sign a full team and have them continue to get better and better.
Yeah, all I know about that was that Hiko had said that 5 they'd been playing together for a few weeks previous to the decision being made. So they must have been seeing some type of success.
Yeah, I do like the 100 Thieves approach to how they built this team, where you have Hiko as a veteran and you build it around new upcoming players that are quite, moldable, so that you can form it into an actual good team. And it takes a little bit longer. I was getting really triggered when I was reading online comments of people saying #free Hiko. Hiko's in prison. Free Hiko. Like, he's not in prison. He's just on a new team. You know?
High Ground are good as well. I was watching the game against Immortals. You know, that ridiculous 13-12 game.
Yeah.
And the comeback just from Venerated, and their defaults, their fundamentals of being able to hold angles and peek for each other and take map presence in that way. They did a really good job against Immortals throughout that series. I don't think that they played badly. I feel like if you're building a team, most of the time you're going to get better results in the long term if you have a process that has some kind of like selection to it, rather than just, because what you're doing is you've just have faith that the High Ground roster is the best that you could have done. You just got faith that they did a good job building that roster.
Yeah, but there's so much resources and stuff that goes into it. And I think it's too early to like really invest. Like, I can admire what Immortals are doing, and I think like almost in a sense, like what Immortals are doing is almost like unprecedented in most esports, at least this early in an esports lifespan. Like, this kind of like analytical approach to building a roster, we don't really see in esports until a year or two into the esports.
Yeah, that's true.
But this is right off the bat. So I'm looking forward to see how that turns out for Immortals, because they could easily as well, just like in 4 months, replace the roster. Like, I don't know how it's going to turn out. Sure. I have no idea.
But I would say it's probably much easier for Immortals to make changes because the players don't have pre-existing loyalties to each other. Like if you're a 100 Thieves coach or manager or whatever the hell, and you see like one of the guys is underperforming, and again, I'm just using 100 Thieves as an example. I have no inside knowledge or anything about that kind of stuff. But if you try and replace one of those players, I would imagine that some of the other players from High Ground would be like, hey, we like playing with this guy. And that's the same
Yeah.
for a lot of these teams. I think that's like a natural thing. If you have player-run organizations, it becomes more difficult to adapt in the future.
Yeah, make those changes
Yeah.
and
I
shake
think-
things up. We've kind of moved
yeah.
over to the T1 talk, T1 No Street Gamers Showdown topic. So
Yeah.
What a sick tournament.
I thought it was dope to watch personally. Yeah, I almost predicted the full bracket to perfection.
Did you really?
No. no. I did. I was because I'm friends with a lot of the Immortals guys like Packing, Gumba, and Gangster now. I suppose because Gangster carries my fat ass in ranked. I predicted them to go on a lower bracket run to the finals, and it almost came to fruition. But I was my key takeaways from this tournament were number one. I think 100 Thieves need a lot more time together, and if they've been playing together already, I think they need some sort of structure to just help them. Because just adding Hiko as this kind of, I guess, big brother figure, this veteran, not really the go-to solve everything scenario when you just surround them with some younger players.
They only seemed to be good 100 Thieves when they were AWPing. When you gave Venerated the AWP,
Yeah.
other than that, they didn't really get much done in the rifle rounds, I think.
I thought that Sentinels were improved from the last time we watched them. The last time we watched Sentinels play, they looked dreadful. Like,
Well, that was ages ago, wasn't
yes,
it?
it was. But I'm just surprised because they've made improvements without a coach. So I'm surprised at how much they've improved. And I think their downsides now are more to the fact that they don't have those players that like opping. You know, Shazam is not one of those players that you have in your mind as like this guy who's very proficient with an operator who can go toe-to-toe with Wardell or Marv or whatever.
Yeah, you feel like he should be though.
Yeah,
Because he was a
did all.
great opper before, so it feels like
He should be.
the guy.
But-
because they need someone.
I think he would be as well. I think
But he doesn't play the role necessary
Exactly.
for
I
opping.
think they're reluctant to put him in that position because they have a different understanding of how they want to play the game. You see Sentinels and they are just frag hungry, more so than any team that we saw in this tournament. They like to push the map on defense, and they're not pushing it for map control. They are pushing it to hunt frags. They're playing Haven on defense. I was watching them, and I love aggressive defenses on Haven. I've been watching Started From CS over in Europe. They do a really lovely set executes to be able to take map control. And I think it's fantastic. You get intel, you get all of that territory, and you can sometimes steal a kill off it as well. Whereas when the Sentinels play, they push up on the defense, but then they don't like stand there and just acknowledge that they've taken space. They push even deeper to find a person to try and get a kill. Not every round, but every time they push up, it seems like they're hunting kills. And like the way that Sinatra uses his recon darts, it's always to try and get a kill. He's like trying to entry by getting recon darts behind people in garage and stuff like that. It's I don't know. It's a different way of playing the game for sure.
Yeah. Specifically when teams don't play Cypher, I think that's super viable to go on those flanks and like expose that, and especially on Haven. So I think that's like something you're going to see more of. Is like when teams don't play Cypher, you're going to see a lot of teams just like push up for space because there are so many entry abilities in this game.
Yeah. What else was a key takeaway? FaZe Clan. They announced one of their players, right? Corey.
Yeah.
Our boy Corey.
And Zachary.
Is Zachary on
Yeah, but
FaZe?
it's not signed, I think.
No, Zachary hasn't been signed, sorry, but he was playing in T1
He
for
was,
FaZe.
yeah. But
He
What
was
a
their Sage player.
surprise! This team.
Yeah.
I think give a bit more time for this team. It's quite clear that they're quite comfortable playing with each other. I think this team's been playing for a while together, but I'm glad they've got Corey as like this central piece, because I don't want to say his talents were wasted in Overwatch or in the Overwatch League, because they weren't. Like, he was a phenomenal player, but I mean, Goats didn't help him, did it? Let's be real. And this guy is a sick aimer. I was watching him just crank out his practice routine for 30 minutes on Aim Labs, and he plays grid shot like he's plugged into the PC. Like, I couldn't believe what I was witnessing. Like, he was just ripping off the way grid shot works is I think it's a 5x5 grid, and there's only 4 boxes that'll be filled in with circles at one time, and when you destroy one, another one pops up randomly. But he is just a freak of nature. Like, Corey is a one-of-a-kind genetic freak when it comes to aiming. Like, if you've got one of those players that I know Corey, he's super positive, very PMA, always willing to improve. Look at this. Thank you for finding the clip cut. Look at this dude's aim, dude. Look at this.
Yeah, that's
Holy
that is absurd.
Like, oh
Looks
my
sped up,
god.
dude.
It does,
That's crazy. He looked really good. He looked really good the whole weekend.
Yep.
I mean, I think, to me, two standout pieces of FaZe pretty clearly were him and Marv.
Yes,
in my
100%.
Marv looked really good.
Actually looks like the best, weirdly. Like, I was not expecting anything from Marv, and he looked really good.
Yeah, he definitely, over the weekend, Marv had the highest peaks on FaZe Clan, I think, but Corey was pretty consistently solid throughout the whole time. He was really good on Raze. He was really good with the Raze utility too, actually. I don't know, I'm sure there's not a stat for it, but I would guarantee he had the most Raze utility kills over the weekend.
I think that sounds like a meme as well, because there's going to be players listening to this. Like, the general consensus is that Raze takes no skill. And no, that's just because you stand in obvious spots and don't know how to move out of the way of grenades. Like,
I'm like, if you're not top fragging with Raze, like you're screwing us over.
Yeah,
top fragger
you actually are. But there is an element of playing around Raze utility and getting the maximum value out of it that the top Raze players have, you know?
Yeah, but I think they got to get Marved. They have to get him. He looked too good.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that they're totally missing a trick if they don't sign that guy. And also, I would say that I was really impressed by how many of their team that they ran in this tournament could use the AWP. Like, they passed it between multiple players. They have like the primary AWP player, but Zachary was playing it at times. Yep. Marv picked it up many times as well. And it was, who was playing the primary AWP for that guy, for that team? It was, I can't remember now. I've forgotten what the...
Was it not Marved?
What the roster was. No, it was Def most of the time, wasn't it? I mean, I don't know, because they passed it around so much, but I feel like it was most of the time in the hands of their Cypher. And then they sometimes passed it to Marv, and then they sometimes passed it to Zach.
They passed that thing around. It was,
I saw it in Def's hands quite a lot, and I was surprised at how good Def was playing, because I think the last time I saw Def play was like when he was playing with the Sentinels that time, when they just were getting rolled. Because he's just been on a bunch of different mixed teams.
Yeah, FaZe is one of those teams I think that you'll see a little bit of time, and they're only going to get better. But I think over time as well, you're going to see this gap develop between the teams that actually have proper structures and support structures around them, compared to these player-run teams that are more pug-like, that are just literally old boys clubs and are just only playing with people they know. Like, Immortals have already kind of... They got picked up as this ragtag group of gamers, and I was reading comments online. Let me find one of them, and I'm just going to read it out. You guys are going to be laughing at this. Where is it?
But a lot of the casters didn't believe in them as well, right?
Yeah, none of the casters, none of the talent believed in them. And I mean, to be fair, what have you got to base it off? But here's one of the comments on Immortals pickup on the Reddit thread. What a horrible roster. A main player, an IM battalion player that gets farmed every tournament, an emo advanced player, and one of the worst French-Canadian CSGO players. Is this from the 10-man experiment they did? Why not pick up an MDL team like Swole Patrol or Rugrats? This roster sucks, lol. Like, there were so many comments like that.
That's very...
And they finished fourth in the T1 tournament.
That's such a grand...
They finished third in T1
Yeah,
tournament.
they finished third.
Look, they nearly won that lower bracket game against T1 as well. Like, they went up, I think it was 9-5, and T1 brought it all the way back.
It's such a grand misconception that the better you were at CS, the better you're going to be at Valorant. I think it's... I'm not going to say it's the opposite, but that line of thinking where it's, well, I was good in CS... When you're playing Valorant, those people, they're just not going to be as hungry. They're not going to have the same passion as some of these younger players. And those teams they're talking about where it's like the boys club, where it's just like CSGO tier 2 pro nepotism, bringing in their friends. Those teams are going to be gone in a few months. Those guys just aren't going to last compared to some of, like, those players might have been worse in CS, but they were newer, hungrier, younger players. Like, Asuna was, he was not even in MDL yet, but before Valorant was coming out, he was getting tryouts with like every MDL team wanted him. He was looking really good, like one of the upcoming, potential top players eventually in CS. And then I think he went to Valorant at the perfect time. He didn't he didn't crescendo in CS. He didn't hit that peak.
It's a developing player moving into Valorant.
Yeah, I think
He's only 16.
I think that's perfect. I think Austin is going to be one of the best players in Valorant. He already looks like one of the best players to me, but I think he might be like top 3 at least.
Is he currently 16?
He's 16.
Yeah, he's 16.
Because doesn't that raise some issues about whether he'll even be able to compete in certain tournaments that are Riot sanctioned? Because they said
Magus said that they wanted to try to lower it from 18 to 16, I like to believe. They want with ESPN on the release.
But at the end of the day, it comes down to legal things, right? Like it's to do with child labor laws at the end of the day. And
does it come down to that?
I don't know.
It depends what
Fortnite is 13.
Yeah.
So
Fortnite gets around it with 13-year-olds.
Yeah.
I think it's just competition.
I'm sure it's a legal issue though. It can't just be people deciding what they want to do. It's if you franchise, isn't there like some argument that people are working for you rather than for the organization, and there's certain new laws that you have to abide by?
Maybe. Yes. I'm not familiar with it, so I'm not going to comment like I know.
For example, is 17 because they have to count as employees of the organization, whereas Fortnite, they're just individual players, just like being represented by the orgs. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. I feel like there's some legal difference there that actually makes it.
Well, when it comes down to franchising, maybe, but there's not going to be franchising for some time, right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know whether it'll make a difference now.
Yeah, I mean, even if it doesn't, you're going to end up with a scenario. Like, imagine if there's franchising in a year's time and Asuna has been popping off in other tournaments. What a storyline that is then, to like the countdown to Asuna entering the league. You know what I mean? Like, and then he just plays in the side tournaments
for like 6 months, and then Asuna comes back. Yeah,
his raise. It was so good this weekend. Dude, his raise was so good.
You don't want to gas him up too much.
I'm just saying. Did you see the 100 Thieves match?
Yeah, I mean, he was
out of control.
Really well, but the thing that I like about the Immortals roster is that there's not just one individual player that's popping off like Tens in Cloud9. It's the whole roster is. It's clear that they're working on their fundamentals and their team play as the foundation, and then the layer of skill that each individual player possesses is just a cherry on top. You know what I mean? Like that clutch potential. Anyway, enough about jerking off the Immortals squad. I don't want to give.
I also think that FaZe have that same kind of potential. Like, I would not be surprised if FaZe get built properly, if they get built well. Those players are really hungry, and I think that just from their showing in this tournament, they look like they have maybe more potential than the Immortals players, because their just raw talent was kind of ridiculous, and FaZe were pretty loose with how they played this tournament, and they were still pretty close to Immortals. So I have a lot of excitement for watching FaZe develop and sign new talents, and I'm also kind of slightly concerned about Jason R joining the team if he hasn't been scrimming with them. Like, why is, you know what I mean? Like, if they haven't got data for him being good with the team, then I'm a little concerned.
Is he signed as an influencer streamer?
I have no idea.
I thought he was signed as a player.
Is he signed as a streamer?
I mean, he's a former CS player turned streamer, right? And so I thought he had come back to play.
That is so FaZe Clan.
I'm fairly. I thought I was under the impression they signed him as a streamer because his stream's huge. He's kind of just playing whatever game.
It says player for FaZe Clan. I think they just play him in this tournament because he hadn't been scrimming with the team.
Maybe, but also I wouldn't be surprised if FaZe is just like, yo, what's up? Let's get the clout, FaZe up, and just signing streamers under the guise of player. Actually, very similar to what Sentinels did with XQC, right? They signed him as a player.
It was in Overwatch, right? Ages ago.
No, I think he's still signed as a player, isn't he, for Sentinels?
He?
Yeah, and it's I mean, there's reasons to go into that, but
I have no idea. I'm not a big watcher of streamers though, so I have no idea how good Jason R is. I'm just coming from a place of caution, being like, if he's intending to be a starting player and they didn't play him in this tournament, then how do they even know that he's going to be a good fit for the team?
Kurt had just pulled it up, and it said like we had signed our newest Valorant recruit.
Yeah.
So I think that just means I think what they tried to do is we signed him as a streamer. Let's throw the hot game in the tweet for like maximum clout. Just put the hot game of the moment in the tweet that he's like the Valorant guy. Because I mean his stream is huge and he plays multiple games. He's definitely not just been streaming Valorant. So I think they just put Valorant in the tweet, but because he does stream it sometimes.
Yeah, that's
that'd be my guess.
Anyway, you guys want to talk about the potential MDL pickups and transfers over to Valorant, or?
Wait, what?
No.
Wait, what? Who are you referring to?
I don't know. Cut the stream.
Wait, was this?
I think that's the end. I mean, does anybody want to talk about anything else?
This is the end of the show.
Did we?
I mean, did we even touch on T1
we got the player of the week
at all? Oh
what?
yeah, we got player of the week. Well, I mean, we also just didn't even talk about T1 TSM. These teams played twice.
the finals.
Literally the
finals.
final.
I was trying to end it. I was like, right, well, I'll call it. We're done. Yeah, the finals itself, having rewatched it, I got the feeling that T1, I hate it when people say this as analysis, but this was the feeling I got, right? Because I haven't watched enough and I haven't played enough of the game to have like a concrete opinion, like here's exactly where they went wrong, ABC. But my subconscious is screaming at me that T1 were boomed in this tournament in the finals, I think. Because they had already lost them in the upper bracket, went down to the lower bracket, squeaked out the win in the lower bracket to make it back into the finals. And TSM started with a map advantage because they had the upper bracket run.
Yeah. I don't think they were boomed though. Like from watching them play, I didn't feel like they were dreadful. I feel like so in my opinion, like T1 are a bit of a scrimmy team. I don't think they have a great read on the meta, and I don't think that they play the best style, but they have really good players, very, very good fundamentals. They back each other up really well, and you know they play good fundamental Valorant. They just don't play like the style that's in vogue right now that's getting a lot of people a lot of wins. Whereas TSM, I feel, just have like that in spades. They have a ridiculous AWPer, really good executes, a good understanding of the meta. They have 3 players that frag the fuck out constantly, and Drone had a ridiculous tournament. Like I don't know. I think that TSM are just a bit ahead. I think they're just the clear #1 team.
Here's my read of what happened. So these are the mental notes that I made. I thought that watching the 2 maps that they played in the finals, I thought that their fundamentals were off a little bit, actually. This is something that T1 rely on a lot. It's just those fundamentals that have been drilled into them from playing CS. Okay, I'm talking like trading, clearing angles at the same time, using utility to take space and push in with it. The trades were off as one thing that I can point out as an individual thing, I think, in this match. And a big part of this was because Wardell loves to just get it. I feel like he gets in players' or team's head with the way he plays. He's so fluid in terms of where he plays on the map with the op at any one time. He constantly changes up his positions, and so you have to keep guessing. And Wardell had either someone on the team on TSM or Wardell himself. I don't know who it was who was making the calls, but they had the read like they had wall hacks on where T1 were playing. Because it felt like wherever T1 decided to play on whatever side of the map, Wardell would be there taking an aggressive up angle. And without fail, they would lose instantly.
I think that's also because if you are playing against an AWPer that's like Wardell, you feel like you can never peek for intel. You can just never peek because you don't know where he is. You don't feel safe anywhere. And so I think that this was also the reason that Fish123 were amazing in the beta, is because it's not so much, okay, like ardiis and Wardell are going to get you a lot of frags, but they're also going to put the fear of God into your opponents.
Yeah.
They play scared against, everyone plays scared against TSM and against former Fish, because you can't feel confident peeking out into an area and just wide swinging and taking a 2v1, because you're going to get shot and the Jett's just going to disengage, and then you've just lost a player. And so people, I think that the trades were off because Wardell was dropping like 15 and 4 every map.
Yeah. No, it's a good point. And I think a big part of like you said, the success of TSM is that the fundamentals are all down. They've got 3 players that without fail will always turn up Like, if one of them has a bad game, they've got 2 more to step up. Like Drone, Sabrosa, Wardell.
Sabrosa actually had a kind of quiet tournament.
Yeah, but he's allowed to when he's got Drone and Wardell alongside him, bro.
Drone was just
insane.
His consistency was so high the whole tournament. He was just he's such a consistent rifler. And
I also love the fact that Drone plays the Phoenix because he hides in suicide angles. So you're already scared of Wardell's AWP. And then you have to clear deep angles as well as being worried about the AWP. And then if you go to clear him, he flashes and gets a kill on you and gets out.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
That duo
Thank you for carrying this, by the way. So we're like 10 minutes past the time, and I'm raiding in WoW currently. So I'm just here to look pretty, and that's pretty much all I do. Because we were scheduled to be done by now, but I'm late, so I'm looking pretty. Thank you, guys. You're doing a great job.
Let's
Keep
finish it up.
Someone's gonna be mad in the YouTube comments, but that's how it goes. You know,
that's how
the cookie crumbles.
Yeah, we can't kick Johnny because he'll mess up our box system.
Exactly. So I'm here to just.
Thank you, Johnny. Yeah. The play of the week. Let's wrap it up then. Let's watch our play of the week that was pointed out. I think I saw what clip this was. This was the finale of the Immortals. Who did they play? 100 Thieves?
Yeah, it was 100 Thieves, right? Yeah.
Dude, this is a nail biter because I've kind of like early Overwatch, I take a liking to a certain team just because I talk to the players and actually realize they're human beings, and you know, the Immortals squad, I was like rooting for them the entire way, and it's a different thing when you're following a tournament and actually rooting for a team. So much so that when they eventually went out, this play is just absolutely nasty. 2v5.
Yeah, and they have a player push from short at the exact same time as a player pushes from lamps, and they just squeeze
also,
the 2 people holding.
What the fuck were they doing playing 3 from showers here?
that plant spot, or positioning, or the plant.
The Bjor survives on like 2 HP.
Unbelievable.
Awesome.
I can believe it.
Golden Boy owned that moment. Like those sick commentating during this moment as well.
Golden Boy's commentating was really good all tournament, actually. I liked him and Gaskin as a pairing. I thought they were very entertaining.
Him and Gaskin were really good, actually, as casters. I've really enjoyed Pansy as a commentator as well, as a caster.
Oh, yeah.
I think
she's probably the best.
Yeah, I would say that Pansy's the best. We need more commentators in Valorant that have just an understanding of, I think, how the game is really played. Yeah, just the game in general. Because, it's...
I get it, though. The talent is learning. Like Johnny was talking about at the beginning of Overwatch. If all you do is cast and you don't have time to actually think about the game, like it's much easier for me to learn the game right now than if I was actually casting Valorant, because I can sit there with the VODs and I can, instead of thinking about casting, I'm thinking about the minimap and where everyone's moving, and I'm taking notes and I'm going back and revisiting and I'm rewinding and stuff. Whereas if you cast, you're just thinking about the hype all the time.
But it does feel like every cast is like almost 2 play-by-play casters and no one doing color.
Yeah, that I can agree with. There's a lot of play-by-play pairings.
Yeah, enough about shit-talking our peers in the esports scene.
We're not. No, we're not.
Well, I mean, I'm okay with calling people out if it means they'll improve, but I'm not. We haven't really named anyone, so.
No, but I don't think it's their fault either.
True.
There's like, where's the analytical commentators?
Now, I think we're done. Are we done? I don't know. Anyone want to say anything?
Yeah, I think
Any last words?
Godspeed and
anyway, comment below if you think the Prism skin is better or the gold Gordy skin is better.
No, not Sovereign. Sovereign is not the good one. Sovereign looks like ass. But the first one.
No, the gold one. Yeah, that's what I said. The Prism skin or the gold one.
But there are 2 gold ones.
No, well, anyway, I don't know. I'll just end it.